Alright, I basically just need to make a 10-minute video because I want to know what happens when you hit 10 minutes on YouTube. There's all this stuff about 10-minute ad revenue. I'm not monetized though, so I'm probably not going to get any ad revenue, but that's okay. Anyway, let's begin. So basically one day I was walking down the street. It was a very nice street. Had two sidewalks, 2-lane street, yellow paint, middle of the road. I saw a car, and this car, it was black. It was a black Ford Fiesta. It was a very, very unusual colour for a Ford Fiesta because it was black. And well, you see, black things get very warm because I don't know. They just get more excited, I suppose. So because they get warmer, it's more dangerous to leave things inside. So this concerned me greatly because I saw that all the windows were closed and it was a locked car. So I go and look inside the car and I see a Singular Apple. Now this concerned me greatly because Singular Apples really can't be trusted. Doctors really bloody hate them. Click here to find out how. And I really wanted to liberate this lone apple because, as I said earlier, it was a black Ford Fiesta, and as you know, black things get very, very hot. And it was about a 41-degree day in Australia, so as we all know, being people who live in Australia, I couldn't stand for this, so I had a couple options. The first option was to break the windshield, although that isn't very subtle. So essentially, that would also trip the car alarm, and I didn't want to look like a criminal because, I don't know, if the police roll up and ask me what I'm doing and I say that I'm liberating a lone apple from black Ford Fiesta on a 41-degree day in Australia, I'll probably be shot. My second option was to wait for the owner to come back and reprimand them appropriately. And after considering my options for about 15 minutes, I decided that would indeed be the best course of action. However, by the time I had decided that was the best course of action, the owner had already arrived and driven off. So that was very, very unfortunate. I basically just stood there in the middle of the street for 15 minutes looking rather retarded. After this, I kept walking down the street. It was a very long street in Western Sydney, and as we know, Western Sydney is very long. So after walking down the street for another 20 or so minutes, I ran into a person who also happened to be walking along the street. Now this person, it was a guy, black hair, brown eyes, really nice guy. Basically, I bumped into him and he dropped all his shopping, which was concerning because his shopping consisted of about 15 avocados and some toast. I don't know if he got the toast pre-prepared in the local Woolies, because there was a Woolies about 4 kilometers down the road from where I currently was. So I helped him pick up these avocados and his toast, and I decided to ask him what the avocados and toast were. And he gave me a rather concerning explanation. He said that he was physically incapable of eating anything that wasn't avocados and toast. Now this struck me as rather odd, since I hadn't ever met anyone before who was physically incapable of eating anything that wasn't avocado on toast. So I decided to ask why this was the case, and he actually broke down in front of me. He started crying, which I thought was very unusual because that wouldn't normally be the usual response of someone asking such a personal question. Anyway, after doing this, he calmed down a bit and gave him some space. He slowly explained to me that as a child, the one thing he wanted to eat was avocado, but his parents, see, they were on the wrong side of the war, so they were denied avocado rights, which is very unfortunate because I think avocados are an acceptable choice of food. And the fact that he could never have avocado saddened him greatly, to the point that when he was a child, he took a blood pact so that he would only be able to eat avocado. Now this was somewhat problematic because he was only about 5 at the time. He managed to get a hold of material that would be able to let you make a blood pact. Anyway, he did the process, which is very, very illegal, and now he could only eat avocados. Fortunately though, he's discovered that avocados are very versatile in what you can have them with. So on this one occasion, he decided to get toast from the local store and get himself some avocado. And he said he was actually starting to get very bored of it, because after only having avocado, he looked about 25 5:30. And if it was correct that he had indeed performed a blood pack at 5 years old, he had been eating only avocado for at least 20 years, which honestly doesn't sound very exciting. As we all know, food is a very appreciated commodity in our society, so without actual proper food, I felt very sorry for the man. But that was okay though, he seemed to be going fairly well. He wasn't fat, he certainly wasn't fat, he was actually quite thin. As to whether or not he was strong in any sense of the word, I don't know, but judging by how he picked up his bag of avocado, I gathered that he certainly wasn't weak. In fact, I could tell that there was a bit of overshoot when he lifted it up and went just a bit above his waist, so there's a bit of unrestrained power within the man, I think, which may come from the fact that he has only been eating avocado for the past 20 years. So, after picking up all his avocados, I then decided that I should walk him home, so I actually ended up going in the other direction which I came, which was very unfortunate because I was on a fairly strict, tight deadline, considering the fact that I needed to be at the hospital in about 15 minutes. But, oh well, I decided that a social interaction was more important than checking to see whether or not I was going to die within the next 20 minutes. So after walking with him, we had a bit of a chat, and we passed, I think, what was possibly the same black Ford Fiesta from earlier. He was making his way down the street. It was very unusual because he had only parked his car there not 25 odd minutes earlier. And you see, this street is very, very plain street. There wasn't actually anything on the street. It was just a matter of transporting people around. So I waved down the Ford Fiesta driver. And as it turns out, there was not a lone apple inside this Ford Fiesta, which is very unfortunate because apples are very important to me. But oh well, I wasn't really able to do so. So after walking down the street a bit more with this man, he then asked why apples were so important to me. And I essentially explained to him my story of how my family were on the right side of the war. And my apples, we had a very, very successful apple farm, which essentially carried us throughout the war and provided my family with the means to feed, financially and just food in general. Apples, you see, are very versatile fruits. You can juice them, you can smash them, you can cut them up, you can even eat them whole, as long as you wash it with approximately 150 milliliters of water, which is the recommended amount of hardness and crunch ratio to actual food that's there, which is quite good because I think the reason my family was so successful during the war was that we had figured out the ratio of roughly how much water you would need. It's a secret recipe of ours, so I'm very, very thankful that I was born into a family that was actually able to get this ratio correct, because I've heard reports sometimes of people who had eaten apples that weren't of the right ratio and found that they were absolutely disgusting, which I think is very odd because I personally think apples are quite delicious. They're moist, they can hydrate you if you need to, they're quite filling and give you lots and lots of energy, and not only that, but as I said earlier, you can prepare them in a number of ways, more so than avocado, which is why I found it a bit odd walking with an avocado man. Both of us clearly had very different fates. We were roughly the same age, roughly the same height. We looked kind of similar. But the difference was, we were on the right side of the war. The apples, obviously, are far superior to avocados. I mean, think of the ways you can have an avocado. You can eat it whole, which not a lot of people do. It probably isn't very nice anyway. You can mash it into a sort of paste, which is what this man was going to do when he got home with his toast. He was going to mash it up and put it together on some toast. But then you look at an apple. An apple can be cut into thin slices, it can be cut into thick slices, it can be eaten whole, which is what people normally do. You can turn it into a juice so you can drink it. They're fairly easily transportable. They're sort of quite firm compared to an avocado. Avocados are fairly soft, you see, which is a bit odd. I mean, avocados have a big nut in the middle, which is very tough, but unfortunately doesn't actually protect the outside of the avocado.